Hi guys, welcome back. Today we'll be talking about TEK Technologies Limited. The company has done quite well, in the recent quarter, and we will see, what the demand and the outlook is like. We have to always look forward. So what the outlook is like for the coming quarters, and of course, we will learn more about the business model. Right? I'll start by sharing a very small PPT that I have. It makes it easier to explain since I'm explaining this business model for the first time. It's not just a result update. Yeah. So if you just look at the name Moltech Technologies, the name might sound familiar, right? Because we've always, I think most of us have come across this company called Moltech Packaging, right? And it is quite famous since, they do the packaging for a lot of dairy products that we use in our day-to-day life or Asian paints, right? So the same founder who found the Moltech Packaging Limited is the founder of even Moltech Technologies. And that is Lakshman Rao, right? So Lakshman Rao, along with Subramanya Rao, started this company in 1986, right? And they do this engineering services. We will go forward and see, in detail what this engineering services are. So if you see, he handles both packaging as well as technologies limited, but is more involved here. He has a daughter and a son, and daughter-in-law and a son-in-law. So most of them are involved in handling the sales, the finance, the entire operations in Moltech Packaging. Whereas at Moltech Technology, it is more about Lakshman Rao. He and his son-in-law, they are doing it, right? And of course, if like even with Moltech Packaging, also they are a Hyderabad-based company. They have their headquarters in Hyderabad. Similarly, here also in Moltech Technology also, they have their office in Hyderabad, their main office in Hyderabad. And since most of their clients are in the US, right, they cater to a lot of US clients, so they have an office even back in the US also. And of course, all if you see all of their clients, whatever the engineering services they provide, they're more into providing having international clients and located in US, Canada, Australia. So first, let us understand, this is more or less the history or the brief of the company. We will understand what does the company do, right? What is the business model like, right? Like I told you, these people are an engineering company, right? Moltech Technologies Limited, right? So what does this engineering mean? What do you mean by engineering services? Now there are two types of engineering services that they provide, right? One is the civil engineering services, that is called in short form CES, and the other one is your mechanical engineering services, which is your MES, right? And civil engineering services contributes around 75% to the total revenue, and your mechanical engineering services contribute around 25 to 30% in that range, and civil to 72 to 70 to 75, right? So that's the breakup of revenue, right? If you see the steel, under the civil engineering services, if you see, there is something called as steel detailing services. Now what is the steel detailing services, right? Can you look at this picture? I think this will paint this will make it easier for me to explain. So before you construct a building, right, you have to set the foundation, right? You would have seen, no, before they construct a building, they set pillars, and these pillars are made up of steel bars. Now it's not that, right, anybody can go and randomly put some pillars. It's not like building Lego, right? Like when you were kids you would build Lego. It's not like that, right? So all of these things, before you go into building the building, you have to do everything in a software, right? आपको वो जो भी mechanical software होगा, whether it is CATIA, what are the other CATIA, and all the other softwares that exist in the market, CAMD or CAD, you have to first design it there. Now why is it necessary for us to design it over there? Because see, all of this, because the steel is an integral part of your entire structure that will determine at the end of the day, the make or break of the building, right? And they have to design it here pehle ke, like, again, here also it is not like randomly they're putting, like ek baar yahan pe dal diye, ek baar yahan. No, it is there, to decide ke, like, kitna force mein, at the end of the day it will break. What is the amount of load it can withstand at the end of the day, right? Where is the failure point, where is the breaking point of this entire steel structure? In fact, if you see, can you see there are different colors here, right? The green, red, blue, and maroon color. Different colors indicate different pressure points. Like it can be, like, for example, green can be the maximum pressure point, or maroon can be the maximum pressure point. That is where the maximum pressure how do I tell that the structure can withhold. Now this is called as steel detailing services. Now see, steel detailing services is hardly like probably very, if you take the entire construction of the building, it is probably 5% of the work, right? So although it is a very small portion of the work, while constructing the entire building. It is very important because this is like a foundation, right? Agar yehi pe hi galti ho gaya, then there is no coming back, right? The entire structure can fail. So this is very, very important for them, like the entire steel detailing services. And when you talk about the civil engineering services, na ye log koi bhi residential project utna nahi karte. They're more into building warehouses, airports, all the other things. In fact, they have their recent project is this 60-store building they have created in Chicago, and ek bada sa ek warehouse they have constructed for Amazon, right? So these remain to be their prime projects in the civil engineering services, like the highlight it has been, right? So this is called this whole steel detailing services. I don't know how much I'm making sense, because I am an engineer, and I did this while I was in how do I tell you, similar to this while I was back in my BTech, as well as my line of work when I got out of my BTech was this only. I used to work with CATIA, CAD, and Hypermesh on these kind of software. So I don't know if I'm making, it's easy for me to understand, but I don't know if I'm doing a good job in teaching or like explaining it, for that matter. So yeah, this is your civil engineering services. Okay. The next you have your mechanical engineering services. In mechanical engineering services, if you see, there are again three types for them, right? Pehla hai assembly automation. Now, what is this assembly automation? I think, as you know, agar aap koi bhi plant mein jate ho today, everything is automated. Ek machine hota hai. For example, agar aap Britannia ke plant mein jate ho, you would have seen, that biscuit aata hai and the cream gets automatically filled, and another biscuit falls on there and it becomes a sandwich, and then maybe 6 to 7 things go into one packet and everything goes into an automation, right? They fall into the basket and everything, right? So this is called as fully automated. Semi-automated can be things like, let's say you have a pickle jar and you're filling, all those jars are coming and automatically, they get filled. But maybe once it is filled and getting bottled up, wo label lagane mein you need, you have like a line of workers there who are, labeling that thing, right? So that can be semi-automated. And even for manual also, like certain automation. So all of these automation work that are needed, right? Jo unka, how this automation will work, how this robotics in this automation work, they do that work, right? Assembly automation work. The next is utilities and telecom. Utilities and telecom are, you would have seen these different lines in like, let's say there are two towers, right? Two mobile towers or anything, and you have different power lines that are there. So first, again, unlike any, how do I tell you, unlike just like the civil engineering services also, first you have to design it in your software. आपको draft करना पड़ता है इसको पहले. So these also they provided, right? And the last one, which is the most important one, is the body shop construction, which is a very recent venture they have started. Which is a very recent venture they've started. Let me just show you. Now, what is this body shop construction? Body shop construction ka matlab hai, like for example, let's say you have a vehicle, right? So before the start of the production, what you have to do is like design it. Like, let me just show the picture. I think it will make more sense. Yeah. Before you go into the complete production, right? First, what you'll have to do is you'll have to design it, not design it, but आपको like just assembling the outer body part जो होता है एक car का, right? All the outer body parts, including आपका seat, आपका the header, feeder, and everything that is there. You have to assemble it and see how it looks. One is of course for design and aesthetic purposes. That is number one. But also the other reason is, see, for example, car, right? One of the most, of course, a car or any vehicle for that matter, the most important thing is, one is the efficiency of the car or the vehicle, because you want to use minimum amount of fuel and reach a maximum distance. The second thing is, of course, the safety factor, right? Now you do all of this thing, you assemble this car like this. I think I can show another Google picture. I think it would make more sense if. Yeah, can you see this? They use the outer portion of the car. यहाँ पे engine कुछ नहीं रहता है, सिर्फ the seat and the outer portion of the car, right? So this is what they do. Right now, this is done. Why is this done? Ki pehle, one thing is because, of course, right, you have to see what is the maximum load this car can take. Like at what point can this car break down? In the sense, like maximum load here is like, see, for example, agar piche se koi bhi aake dhakka mare, what is the amount of force that is needed for that vehicle to hit? At which point this entire body will crumble, right? So this is one of the reasons they do this kind of test. The another reason, I mean, from this again, when you talk about these kind of how do I tell you, when you talk about these kind of tests, there are two kinds of tests. Okay, one is your structural test and one is your fluid test. Structural test is basically आप कितना लोड पे ये एक एक क्या बोलते हैं, एक ऑब्जेक्ट जो है ब्रेक हो जाएगा, इसका फेलियर पॉइंट क्या है, ब्रेकिंग पॉइंट क्या है, इसका एक्शन लोड या shear stress, all this different, I don't want to make it too complicated, but all these engineering loads and forces that are there, right? What is the maximum point or the of stress it can take? This is what they do it for. That is number one thing. The second thing they also do it for is, like I told you, efficiency is very important, right? In any kind of car for that matter, right? Maybe in terms of speed, or maybe in terms of fuel also, right? Both. I mean, different cars will have different criteria also, right? If you're getting Maruti, of course, efficiency in terms of saving fuel becomes important. If you're doing an F1 race car, of course, there it is more of speed. Now, यहाँ पे what happens is there is something called a fluid test. Fluid test में क्या होता है, इसको एक either एक wind के एक machine में बिठा जाता है, where wind flows. Wind flow के वजह से क्या होता है? Can you just follow my cursor? What happened? I mean, this is done mostly in a software also nowadays. Nobody has this big setup, and does this, right? So here also, what happens is, they do a test. This is all done in software, okay? Like if a wind is flowing from here, right? By the way, this shape is called as aerodome shape, and aerodome shapes are very necessary for cars in order to give that flight kind of flight kind of structure, so it can have more speed, right? So agar aap air yahan se flow, if the air flows, like let's say the car is moving front ways, so it crashes through the air. So what happens? The air gets split, right? One flow will be here and one flow will be here, right? The lesser the space between the two flow of air, right? Ek yahan se aata, sorry, I think I can explain it here. एक यहाँ से आता है airflow, and the other one is like this. The other airflow is like this. So the distance between these two airflow has to be less, right? Lesser the distance, more is the speed of the vehicle, right? That is basically, this is a combination of velocity and how do you tell you? Combination of speed and pressure, right? Combination of speed and pressure, and it's called, I think, Bernoulli's principle. I don't remember. I studied long time back in engineering college. But yeah, because of this, what happens? The gadi moves faster, right? So this is one thing, and all of this is done in one way to see, of course, to check the speed of the vehicle, kitna hota hai, kitna mileage de sakta hai, right? Because lesser is this distance between the airflow, more will be it will be easier for the vehicle to move forward, and less fuel it will use, right? That is one thing. That is why you will see कि अगर आप वो F1 का कार जो देखते हो, Formula 1 का कार जो देखते हो, you will see, right, it is very sleek, very thin. The distance you'll see, like, it is, there is no top part of it. Why? Because जो उसको aerodome जो shape होता है, it is very thin. Only reason is because the distance between the two airflows is less. Now, all of this is done again in software, right? At the end of the day, the purpose, if you see, अगर ये Moltech Technologies जो है, if it is either doing in civil engineering services या mechanical engineering services में, their work is more or less doing it on the software, doing it on the computer, right? Like, for example, me, when I did my aeronautical engineering and I got out and I had a job, I worked as a design engineer. We didn't go there and design the क्या बोलते हैं जो airplane जो है, we were not putting the screw and एक sheet डाल के, we were not fixing it like that. That doesn't happen. That work is done by mechanics and people on the shop, people on the floor, right? The work by the engineers are done here by sitting at the comfort of their office or their home, and they work via software. All of this is done via software. You do it, and then it goes into test, into reality, right? So this is more or less what Moltech technology does. I hope I've made sense as to like what the product is in terms of both their civil engineering services as well as mechanical engineering services, right? So now let's go into the result. If you see, you would see that the revenue has shown a significant, not significant, sorry, has shown a good, decent growth, like, right, in fact, great, I would say, 26.9% on a year-on-year basis. The PAT has grown unbelievably, right, like 102% year-on-year. You will see there's a good amount of operating leverage play. You're seeing even the PAT margins ka bhi expansion hua hai from last year to this year, 11.3 to 16.6. Not just this, I think their EBITDA margin also grew by what, 86%, yeah, 100%. I'm not exactly sure about the number. I think the EBITDA EBITDA grew by 86%. I think the EBITDA margin grew by 100. I'm not sure exactly, but I'll get back with that, right? So if you see on a year-on-year basis, right, they've done tremendously well. But if you see on a QOQ basis, there is a drag. You would see that the revenue has fallen by 14.4. As same the PAT also, PAT has also fallen by a significant amount, around 37%. So a huge number in terms of PAT, and and even the operating leverage also here is seen, right, even in terms of losses. Now, of course, I would the reason you don't compare QOQ and you do year on year is because of seasonality. But what kind of seasonality, you can ask me, because this is not an FMCG business, because there is rain, or uske wajah se, because all of the work happens at the comfort of your office and homes. The reason here the QOQ ka revenue down is because, like I told you, right, all of their clients are international clients, and the majority of the revenue comes from US and Canada and these kind of places. If you go there, you see that the financial year for them, if you go and see that the financial year for US starts from Jan and ends at December. Ours is like April to March ka cycle hota hai, whereas in US and Canada it is Jan to December. That is the thing. So for them, the quarter one ends at March, right? Jan Feb March. Uske baad quarter one aata hai. So all of their invoicing is done in Q1, right? All of the invoicing, project deal milna, sab kuch hota hai Q1 ke baad. That is one thing. And slowly after Q1 only, Q1 is usually weak because of this, because only invoicing happens during this period. Like after Q1 of their period, invoicing happens, and after their Q1 is basically our Q1, right? So because of this, because of these reasons, you're seeing revenue and PAT have been down on a year on year. That is one thing, right? Other than that, also because since their projects are very long, agar aap dekhte unka civil engineering ka jo bhi project hai, they are building such huge buildings now. Like imagine the 60-story ka building and everything. I know although these people are not going and physically building anything, these people are just providing the structure, the physical layout. They're basically doing the 2D and 3D versions, drafting all of these versions and providing that. But also this is a very important work, right? So this the projects can last for up to like 6 months or 9 months at times, depending on the size of the building and everything, right? Because it is not easy work, right? Imagine 60-story ka building ka agar aapko ye steel ka structure, you have to draft it in CAD or CAM. It is definitely not easy. So what happens is, because of the length of the project, right, the payment structure is like you do a certain amount of work and then the payment gets released, like the release kind of payment, they do that. So because of this, as the year progresses, since the project also will catch up, project also will go into execution. That's how even their invoice will get billed, and that's why Q2, Q3, Q4 are sequentially better compared to Q1, right? That is the reason. Another thing, in case, like I told you, if you open an income statement, agar aap dekhte ho, agar aapko clear karna hai, like you have to reject a company, you can't reject this company because it clears literally the checklist, like revenue hai, PAT hai, operating margin hai, PAT margins improve hua hai, EBITDA margins bhi improve hua hai. If you see even the order book jo hai, right, even the order book is also very strong. If you see, the order book is at 4.1 million, right? Agar aap dekhte ho ki like last year FY22 FY23 ka jo tha, right, FY22 FY23 ka jo tha, the entire year they had an order book of 13 million, right, which they executed also 13 million ka tha. If you see us 13 million, if I have to divide it by 4, right, because 4 quarters are there, and just take an average, forget about seasonality, forget about everything, if you take an average, it is still 3.25 million, right? And if you see 4.1 and 3.25, it is still a 26% increase in the order book. So all in all, even no complaints over there, great, right? And another good thing about here is also the company has increased the employee addition also. Now, why is this important? See, you can be telling you want to grow and everything, but to grow at this rate also, you need a manpower at the end of the day, right? And they've added 115 employees, and you might be like, oh, this is very small now, rate 115 employees. See, one thing is, of course, they're not as big company as like technology companies like KPIT or like TCS or anything, and it is not even the same. You can't compare this. Although it is a technology driven company, it does fall in that category. You can't compare this to the likes of TCS or Infosys or Wipro or any of these companies, because see, the amount of work, the amount of skill set is not the same. In terms of skill set also, I'll tell you, like the people who are graduating out of college and who come to work, although they might know conceptually, they know the skill that is needed to work on here is different. I can be a prime example here, because when I graduated with a degree, I think the work that we're doing was conceptually the same. Like in terms of concept, it was easy to understand. Of course, here you're more into like practical things, but what happens is the software that you work is different, right? Because in your engineering, you're taught with one software, the same thing. And here what happens also, like when you when the client gives you certain projects, what happens is, especially in terms of mechanical engineering services, certain kind of companies will have their own software, and they will have the license for it. So they'll have to buy that software ka license and give it to you also, right? And of course colleges will not have it, so there is a huge gap in terms of skill. That is one thing. And also in terms, like, it is a very skilled labor. It is not like IT ka jo bhi ho, you just have to sit there, like, how in TCS and all it is. So because of this, because of the skilled labor that this is, the addition is also in the similar way. That's number one thing. And the second thing is also, like, in terms of billing, that happens in terms of billing also, right? It takes around six months to train this new freshers that are there. And then even after training, I remember my training was, I think, for like 3 months. And even after training also, they don't put you into like project full time. Like, they don't give you the billable hours, because although you will be working in the project, because a little mistake that you do, I mean, of course you're a fresher and you'll be doing a mistake, that is okay, but even a little mistake that you do can set back the whole project a lot. You'll have to do a lot of rework, and the rework here is like the quite irritating part, right? So that is the reason, for any employee, a new trainee, a fresher, or an employee to become really productive, and get the complete utility of the billable hours also here, it takes around 9 months to a year. So that is the reason. So in terms of result and order book, again, no complaining. But what is important, see, because this result is based on June, right? Like, June se jo it came out in June, so whatever months preceding were there, it is based on that. Now it is already September. So, and market is a forward looking engine at the end of the day, right? You have to see agla kya ho raha hai, jo hua acha hua, but agla kya ho raha hai, like, is the growth going to be good? Because a company might be good is quarter mein, अच्छा रिजल्ट किया होगा, पर अगर अगले आने वाले में, if there is a lot of headwinds, then even the market also will react the same way, right? So if you see here, they don't have any kind of headwinds as we talk right now. The demand seems to be very positive. In fact, contrary to the opinion that we are coming across, across social media, that there is a lot of inflation in terms of US and Europe, which is true in terms of, I think, retail. But if you're looking at civil engineering services, especially the projects that are coming out by the government and everything, the entire infrastructure, there is a lot of boom, right? And housing market is also seeing a lot of development, because people are now wanting to move into luxury. Like, people who are having two-bedroom house are moving to a three-bedroom house. So there's a lot of demand here in the entire real estate segment, right? And that is the reason. And outlook, if you see, it seems very positive, very bullish in terms of that. And of course, management has given a guidance to grow at, like, EBITDA terms में हम लोग तो 40%, तो we can आराम से do it, 40 to 50% that they're targeting from where they are currently, right? And उनका जो है, like, CES जो था, like civil engineering services जो है, it can grow by 25%, and MES, mechanical engineering services जो है, it can grow by 30%, right? And if you see also, if their order book, if you compare, उसका भी growth rate था around 26%, right? So all in all, this matches the guidance that they give. That is number one. And in terms of their mechanical engineering services also, I think last year they had around what, 400, I don't know if I've written it somewhere. Yeah, last year, I think, in mechanical engineering services, unka order book tha hardly $200,000, I think, and now it is 1.1 million, right? So it is almost 4.5 time increase in terms of order book also. Even Q2 jo unka civil engineering services ka bhi hai, even that has a very strong order book. So in terms of, I mean, there hasn't been anything in terms of guidance. If you talk about top line, agar at least if they had given the top line ka guidance, a little bit, and EBITDA ka guidance, then you could have extrapolated something, and and given like PAT kahan pe hoga, right? What will be the PAT growth? But there is no top line ya PAT ka guidance that is given, or in terms of, like, how much the ROE. I mean, they have a pretty good ROE also. That is not to complain. But having said that, the only guidance is in terms of EBITDA. But then that's a good thing, right? Yeah. So in terms of, actually, if you see, in terms of capex, agar wo kar rahe ki, like, kya, so until now what they've done is, one of the I would say, one of the negative sides of this entire nature of the business is, since they are into very critical structures, like, civil engineering mein aap steel ka detailing kar rahe ho, it is all the foundation. In terms of this body in white workshop, body in white jo hai, all in the mechanical engineering services, what happens here is, it is very important for you to build trust. Agar aap 60 story ka building कर रहे हो, एक warehouse कर रहे हो Amazon के लिए, right? It is not randomly somebody. You'll have to show Like you need to have proof of your work, and it's something that happens and develops over a period of time. So for these people now to get that hold in that, how do I tell you, hold in that field, to get that, build that reputation, to build that kind of trust, and create a name for themselves, it takes around 8 to 10 years, right? The steel detailing services in ka jo hai, it was started in 2010, and now they have a really good reputation. And the fact their projects right now that are there is a testimony for that. Mechanical engineering services also, they have really, really good reputation. In fact, I think in 2018, 2019, they got a project from Tesla for making lithium ion batteries, right? And that really set them apart. That is one thing, right? So in fact, so both of these things in civil engineering services as well as in mechanical engineering services, they have a lot of reputation, right? Now, even in terms of unka jo body and bite workshop tha, which they have started recently, right? Even there also they are getting a lot of, a lot of projects. Earlier they were doing only 2D and 3D, which would get over in 2 to 3 months. Now they're doing the entire end-to-end design, and they're giving them. And this takes a longer time, 6 to 9 months. So even the project length and the projects are increasing, right? But what has happened is now they want to get into architectural and design also. Now the reason, now if they can't again, right? If they start again by new, what happens is they will need again 10 years to show them, they are good enough and everything, right? And the company, that is why what they're trying to do is already acquire a firm that has a good reputation, so they can save these years and just start working with them. So that is one of the reason. Now, what is the difference between why they want to do this architectural design ka thing? The reason is, right now they're doing hardly 2D and 3D detailing. Okay, with the steel ka beam also, if you talk about it, the steel in the civil engineering services, they're hardly doing the 2D and 3D ka detailing, which is around 3% of the entire, the steel detailing is around 3% in the entire world, right? That is the scope it has. So now they want to go also into connection design. Now they do connection design even now. But the problem with the connection design, right? Oh, okay, wait. Let me first just explain you what connection design is, right? So connection design ka matlab kya hai? Like, can you see here? Here you're just doing 2D and 3D डिटेलिंग, सिर्फ आप एक स्ट्रक्चर को कर रहे हो कि लाइक ऐसा होगा इस लोड पे या ये होगा, राइट? नाउ थिंक अबाउट दिस, एक कॉल, दिस इज द बीम इज दिस, हाउ डू टेल दिस हॉरिजॉन्टल स्ट्रक्चर का आप देख सकते हो, ये बीम है. कॉलम इज दिस इज स्ट्रेट थिंग. सो व्हाट हैपेंस इज व्हेन यू डू अ बीम एंड कॉलम, राइट? एक you are putting a beam and attaching it to a column, so there is a sense of force that is here, right? That is one thing. And you might, connection का मतलब क्या है? You're just joining two things. If you're doing it by welding process, आपको मालूम होगा welding process, right? You are just melting that metal with heat and you're just joining them. But connection design का मतलब you're using a third party something, like for example rivet हो गया, joints हो गया, bolts हो गया, all of these things. इसके वजह से क्या होता है, rivet, joints या bolts के वजह से the distribution of stress जो होता है gets disturbed. So you have to recalculate all of these things. Like, I'm sorry if I'm making it too complicated, but I'm trying as much as easy as I can. So इस connection design करने के लिए basically एक beam और column कैसे होता है, या column to beam, इसको join करने के लिए all of this connection design, you need a license. क्योंकि in US में क्या होता है, if you need to design these connection designs को करना होता है, you need to have first of all a degree, like you have to have gone through a college and university and get a professional degree, and then after that you have to write an exam. And every state का उनका ही एक exam होता है, they have their own exam and they have their own how do I tell you, their rules and everything, their own rules and guidelines. You have to follow that, and आपको एक license मिल जाता है, ठीक है? So this, you have to get this license, then only by the way, by this Board of American Structural Society, right? They have to get all of these license, and then only they can start getting into this, like start doing the work for connection designs. So now what has happened is they're doing only 2D and 3D steel ka detailing, right? If they do this connection ka design also, if they add it to their portfolio, they will be able to give this entire end-to-end, complete design also, right? And they can directly go and give the work to the contractors and everything. So this is the reason they're very keen on doing this. This is their very next business plan. Basically, they're trying to be that one-stop shop. आप हमारे लिए क्यों सिर्फ डिजाइन करने के लिए आ रहे हो स्टील का डिटेलिंग, सिर्फ 2D और 3D डायग्राम ही क्यों चाहिए आपको? Like, we will provide you everything, the end-to-end solution देंगे, right? So this is what they're doing, right? Now the problem here, like again, like I told you, this is the big problem, license है. Right now they have only 2 professional प्रोफेशनल इंजीनियर्स लाइक इसके लिए आई मीन ये लाइसेंस करने के लिए. एक यहाँ पे है इंडिया में है, एंड द अदर वन इज इन आई थिंक समवेयर इन अटलांटा, राइट? So and they have these two professional engineers to get the license for any projects in the 50 states, right? So this is the thing. So if they acquire an already architectural ka design firm that is there, they will not only get that reputation, but also it will be easier for them. Now one of the reasons why also they're doing this is, one, because end-to-end solution provide karna hai. That is another thing. The second thing is, think about this. Ek jo banda hai to hire that guy, and ek jo licensing karta hai, it will cost them around $120. But if you get it done by, like, let's say if you train an Indian person and pay him according to the Indian wage labor, then it will be around $60, right? So you think about it, a company who is spending $120 versus $60, of course, right, anybody would want to take that. So it is very efficient in terms of, let's say, manpower. So that is one of the reasons, and also one of the reasons these people are getting a lot of influx in projects. Keeping all of this architectural and design thing aside, the other reason is also, when you talk about the steel detailing services and everything, right, there is a very small market, right? And 20% of that huge pie in that market is coming from the US only. But the problem with US is, of course, very expensive labor force, right? So if you try to outsource it, you'll outsource it to Vietnam and Japan, because they have very leading technologies, right? Again, there also the problem is that right now, the living expenses are high and labor wages are high also. So the other reason here in India is because, that is the cost competitive advantage you have. So that is the reason, these people are also having that, how to tell you, that advantage, right? So this is the reason they want to do the acquisition, like I told you, a connection design ka wo license lene ke liye. So that is that. Other than that, there is nothing. The firm is great. In fact, I don't know if I've missed any point. um yeah, the firm is great. Like, they have a really good order book hai. Agar aap result bhi dekhte ho, acha hai. Outlook guidance bhi hai, even that is great. You can sense a bullishness from the tone, that the way management speaking. But having said that, of course, any business model comes with risk. Not everything is all hunky dory, right? One such thing is, since they're very concentrated into all this US and Canada, the problem can happen is, because of any geopolitical, any due to any geopolitical or foreign currency issue, it can, of course, affect them. That is always a given thing, right? The second thing is, you have right now is an order book. Aapka jo hai, as of right now, they have that 4.1 million ka order book. It all comes down to, can they execute it? Because agar aap kitna execution karte jate ho, itna aapka payment aata rehta, right? Because aapka jo invoice ka payment hai, it comes in parts. Like, how much ever work you complete, as that much money. Like, complete so much 25%, you get this much payment. That is how it is. So hopefully the management, although the order book, if you see on a year-on-year basis, it has increased by 26%. 4.1 million order book. Mechanical engineering services order book has increased 4.5 times. All great, but it all comes down to this. The third thing is their licensing issue. Licensing issue jo hai. The problem with licensing issue, like I just explained you, right? They always need, one is, of course, you have to find people who are going through universities there and are clearing that exam and everything, to work with these American government and the follow their guidelines. That becomes an important thing. So if a cancellation of that license, or there is some kuch bhi ho jata hai wahan pe, again the projects can fall short. That is another thing. And the other thing is, there is a little bit concern with the mechanical engineering services. Like, for example, there has been a huge gush in terms of last year. Like, they got good revenues and everything. Hopefully, they will be able to continue that momentum in business even this year. I mean, the demand over there also hopefully is that great. So that is the only risk that the business possesses. Other than that, there is nothing. All in all, a great company. The management is good. If you see, very honest. Let me stop this. Yeah, very honest management also. There is, and of course, in terms of numbers also great. All in all, it comes down to one thing and one thing only. Like, if they can execute what they have promised, right, there is no stopping here. So that is, I mean, it also has a very low market cap, low PE, everything. So all in all, a great company. Just one thing is, at the end of the day, the next quarter and the quarter after that, it all comes down to how the numbers are getting reflected because of the execution of all this. Yeah. So that's it about Moltech Technologies Limited. I hope you all understood. So yeah, that's it, and hope to see you again next time. Take care. Bye bye.